Hey y'all, you have scampered on back to the McCripple channel, where I, JP McFarland, am your resident cripple. Wonder how long it's going to take me to run out of ways for y'all to get here. I'll have to get creative. So, how are things? How are y'all doing? Are you eating your vegetables? Are you washing behind your ears? I hope this video finds everyone having a great day or night wherever you are. So I had an old blog post from about 5 years ago, well over 5 years ago, that I've wanted to make into a video and share with y'all. And it's kind of funny because I started reading the post and I was like, wait, I wrote this? You ever do that? You come across something that you wrote years ago and you were really proud when you originally wrote it, and then years later when you find it again, you're like, wow, I wrote that? It's been really inspiring to reread it all these years later because it really centers in on a mentality that I had in the earlier years after I got hurt that I've been trying to step back into. And this was 11 years post-strokes when I wrote this, but I guess I was still closer to that version of myself that I've been trying to get back to. So past JP wound up inspiring future JP, or present JP anyway. Is it conceited to be inspired by yourself? Anyway, I hope she inspires some of y'all too. Here we go. One of the most important lessons I learned during my stay in the hospital after surviving the 2 brain aneurysm hemorrhages, and I so wish I could remember where I heard it or from whom, was that there is a difference between stroke victims and stroke survivors. And it all comes down to how you view yourself. Are you going to be a victim of the stroke that changed your life forever? Or are you going to be a survivor and use that change for good? And in the end, the way you view yourself will always affect the way others view you. Not that it really matters what other people think of you. I cannot stand being pitied. I certainly didn't want to play the pitiful victim, forever lamenting the things that had happened to me. I saw them as a tool that God had used for the better in my life. They had gotten me, rather forcefully, out of a dangerous rut in my life that was quite literally killing me, and it almost did. And they led me down a new path with a healthier outlook. No one wants to hang around the person who is forever sad, complaining about life and full of excuses for why things are the way they are. But everyone likes to be around a survivor who laughs in the face of adversity and shows strength in the extremes to which the human spirit is capable of going. I don't think I've mentioned this before, not that you really care, but I enjoy using the Bible app on my iPhone for Bible study plans. I use the YouVersion app daily, and you can go to www.bible.com/reading-plans to check out their different study plans. And I'll leave a link in the description for their website, which I also use for my online Bible reference. I actually like them a lot better than some of the other Bible sites. And you can also search for the YouVersion Bible app on your phone's app store, whichever one that is. Anywho, years ago, I completed a plan called Getting Past Your Past by a woman named Grillo, who knows quite a bit about moving from victimhood to being a survivor. She had to overcome a painful past that included working in the sex industry, and after finding her voice, has moved on to become a strong, motivating woman. She now works to save others from sex trafficking in the sex industry through her Treasures Foundation. And yes, Houston friends, we all know there's a huge strip club on Westheimer named Treasures. If it's still there, I don't remember. And a lot of the workers there could probably use some of Miss Grillo's advice. Her website is www.iamatreasure.com if you'd like to help her foundation, or if you or someone you know might need her help. Anyway, I really enjoyed her study, and I got a lot of wisdom from it. I should probably go through it again since it's been over 5 years now. Anyway, I wanted to share some of what I learned on day 4 because it encompasses the idea of choosing to be a survivor instead of a victim. While her experience comes from traumatic abuse in the sex industry, what she talks about also applies to anyone overcoming a stroke or other injury or any health issue. Any form of trauma, really. On making that all-important choice, Miss Grillo says, we get to choose whether or not we'll remain a victim. We can't change what happened to us yesterday, but we can decide where we'll go from here. She affirms that you have to take responsibility for your life and make that choice to view yourself differently as the stronger survivor. She says, and I'm quoting, best-selling authors and psychologists Dr. Cloud and Dr. Townsend put it this way: it's not my fault if I get hit by a car, but it is my responsibility to learn how to walk again. Damn straight. For those of us who have literally been in that position before, lying in a hospital bed, permanently handicapped, and facing the frustrating and painful task of having to learn how to walk again, however not steadily we do it, that quote speaks volumes. Of course, there are days when you don't want to get up or do your physical therapy. Those are the days when a support structure is so important. When you need the people who love you reminding you that if you want to move on with your life, be independent, and ever get out of that wheelchair, you have to get out of that bed and put in the work it takes. No matter how much it hurts, no matter how depressed you are, no matter how badly you don't want to. And often it falls to your therapist to make you work through the pain, tears, and frustration. That's why we so often start out hating them, only to appreciate them all the more later. Although it's more of a playful hate, really. Anyway. Those days when you want to lie in your bed playing the victim are the days you have to give yourself a pep talk, or do like me and get mad at yourself. And avow that you are not going to be lessened or made a victim by the circumstances in your life, but you are going to rise above them and stand or sit atop them, using them for the better. One of my favorite quotes of all time is from arguably one of the most inspiring women of all time, Maya Angelou. Her quote is, "I can be changed by what happens to me. I refuse to be reduced by it." That is such a powerful statement from a woman who admittedly overcame struggles I can never understand, although I do try to empathize with everyone. My cousin Jordan, the one with the I, not the Y, there's two, had sent me a card while I was in the hospital with that quote on it, and to say it resonated with me would be putting it lightly. I used to keep it written on a board in my room after I got out of the hospital. Miss Grillo points to a story in John 5 where Jesus encounters a man who had been paralyzed for 38 years. Jesus asked him, "Do you want to get well?" A question which the man answered with a litany of obstacles in his way. He was pointing fingers at others' actions and, as Miss Grillo says, responding with a victim mindset. Jesus replied with a command, "Get up, pick up your mat, and walk." When the man did so, he was healed. Ms. Grillo believes that Jesus asks all of us who have been victimized or gone through something traumatic that same question: do you want to get well? As she so wisely says, we can either continue to focus on the obstacles and find excuses that will keep us stuck in the conditions and mindsets that perpetuate our sense of victimhood, or we can stand up, take responsibility for what's ours, and walk towards freedom and healing. To summarize her closing, we can either continue justifying the way we are with excuses, or we can make the decision to get well. With God's strength, when we choose to get well, we have the ability to not only survive our victimization, but to completely overcome it. She cites Romans 8:37. "No, despite all these things, troubles, calamity, persecution, hunger, destitution, danger, and the threat of death, overwhelming victory is ours through Christ, who loved us." Wallowing in your victimhood and using it as an excuse ain't going to help you in any way. It only serves to hinder you from experiencing the life you're meant to have. As Miss Grillo states, Your value does not lie in your victimhood. We are not defined by the victimhood of our past. Whether you experienced traumatic abuse a decade ago or a traumatic brain injury a week ago, I join Miss Grillo in encouraging you to move forward to a place in your life where you can see yourself beyond the circumstances that made you a victim and begin to see yourself as God sees you. God wants so much more for you than to be a victim, forever defined by the negative impacts on your life. Everyone deserves better than that. I wish I could remember where I first heard that there was a difference between stroke victims and stroke survivors, but that message resonates with me as strongly today as it did 16 years ago. I face every day as a survivor, knowing that no matter what, God has my back. The struggles of life continue to this day, which is why it's often so long between videos, but I do hope to improve this new year as I try to step back into my survivor mindset. The stresses of life are never ending, as they are for every breathing soul in this world. You try to remember those who have it even worse than you on the tougher days, and always remember, I am a survivor, damn it. And I'm going to put one of my absolute favorite inspirational songs in the cards at the end, Overcomer by Mandisa. Her music is so moving and she has such a beautiful voice. The first time I watched the video for this song, I started bawling with my hand over my mouth, trying not to make any noise. Finally, I was so overwhelmed with emotion, I was doing that cry choke, and my husband got worried and said, "What's wrong?" I said, "This song's just so moving." The song itself is so heartwarming, and then with the video on top of it, I was just completely overcome. She shows all these people facing heartbreaking battles and triumphing over or overcoming them. And then Gabby Giffords came on the screen, and I lost it all over again. See, I remember praying fervently when I heard that she had been shot. And then my mom and I closely watched her condition and recovery because her injury was on the same side of her brain as mine was, and her medical journey was so similar to mine. She had her skull plate removed the same as I did and had to wear a helmet just like I did, although she got a really cool helmet with her state's flag on it because she's a congresswoman, while I just had the plain boring white one. And I had actually been living in her district in Mesa, Arizona, in Maricopa County.
I lived in Mesa, but when you say Mesa, people don't know what Mesa is.
A couple of years before the shooting. I was only there for 6 months, and I didn't really pay attention to local politics or any really while I was there. So I hadn't heard of her while I lived there, but I was so shocked and worried when I heard what had happened. And when she began her rehabilitation, she came to Houston to go to TIRR, T-I-R-R, where I've done my physical and occupational therapy. We have one of the best medical centers in the country, arguably the world, and some of the best doctors too. After God, I think that's one big reason why I survived and managed to come out as well as I did after having that much blood, fluid, and pressure on my brain. And TIRR itself is a very renowned institution. Gabby's husband is an astronaut, so obviously he knew there was no better place for her to do her rehab than Houston. And I actually saw her a couple times at therapy. She was always so sweet when we'd make eye contact. She'd give me the kindest smile. When I told my mom about it after seeing her for the first time, my mom said she was probably admiring your hair. We remembered that Gabby had just gotten her hair done blonde right before she got hurt and had to have it all shaved. I'd had a really hard time getting over the loss of my long blonde hair when I came out of the coma. I'll probably elaborate on that in a future video to help other women dealing with the loss of their hair, especially when it's a sudden though temporary loss like that. Maybe it was harder being at such a young, insecure age, basically 19. I had turned 20 the day it got shaved. I struggled with what I saw as the loss of a huge part of my identity when I awoke from a 2-week coma and all my hair was gone. And I empathized with Gabby having to go through a similar experience. Although she had the benefits of being much wiser and more settled in her life and identity. Although I don't mean to say that it was easier for her in any way, it obviously wasn't. Anyway, after my mom said that, when I would see Gabby at therapy and she'd smile back at me, I always wanted to say, "It's okay. I've been at the same place. It's gonna grow back." I really pray she's doing well, and Gabby, if you ever happen to randomly see this video, thank you for always smiling back when I'd see you at tear. You're a strong lady, and I cheered for you every step forward you made, especially when you first went back to the house floor. Anyway, sorry to ramble again. I already felt like Mandisa was talking to me through the song, and then when I saw Gabby in the video going through so many things in the healing process that I'd experienced too, I just couldn't handle it anymore. It hit home so hard. Thank you for that beautiful song, Mandisa. It has inspired me so many times through so many struggles. And it took me years before I was able to sing along without crying or getting choked up. It still happens sometimes. That song has moved me on so many difficult days and reminded me of who I am when I needed it most. And I hope it speaks to y'all the same. You'll see it pop up in the cards here soon. Please give it a listen and save it for your hardest days. So if you put up with me all this way to the end, go get yourself a cookie or a beer or something. Please do the things if you got something out of this video, and feel free to comment or ask questions, and please do share if you think it could help others. It will really help me to grow this channel and audience, which I pray helps me to reach the people I can help. And your help in doing that would mean the world to me, and that's way too many helps. Have a great day or night, and remember, choose to be a survivor every day and not an eternal victim. I know you're strong and you can do it. And always show kindness and love to others. Help them to be strong too. Okay, I'll shut up. I love y'all. Y'all come back.